is it really that big of a deal? We're making a turkey. Am I really going to get punished from Allah by making a turkey?
Subhanallah. Now, I'm not advising this. Somebody says we will have an Eid tree, which is a different color, different type, and it's very, very different.
It's not a tree.
And I'm going to do that. I'd say, look, this person has made a reasonable attempt to differentiate, but I'm still not comfortable. I'm not going to say it's imitating them, but I'm still not comfortable. Why can't we have our own ideas?
If the whole school class is doing it, the child might feel left out, that they're not partaking in, say, like creating a Christmas jumper or something. I don't know. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, episode 7, inshallah, SalaamSeekers presents Thoughts of the Mind. And alhamdulillah, today we are here to talk about Christmas, New Year's, and all the things that surround festivities around this time of the year. So inshallah, what we want to do is we want to understand better a Muslim standpoint on the what Muslims have to do in regards to Christmas. And I think living in a country such as the UK, we need to understand how to deal with these kind of
It's going to be really short. Nothing.
That's the conclusion. How we get to that conclusion is what we're going to be talking about, inshallah. So yeah. So I actually want to ask straight away. We obviously, as Muslims, we believe in Isa alayhi salam, the birth of Isa alayhi salam, and everything surrounding Isa alayhi salam. However, Christians, they have a completely different take on it, and they believe that Isa alayhi salam's birth date or birthday is on the 25th of December, and therefore they celebrate that. I think that's the main reason for.
In the Bible, it actually doesn't mention a day of Isa alayhi salam's birth.
Again, so there you go. That's another.
So I think when that already, and actually Christians didn't actually celebrate at the start. It was only until the 4th century did the church initiate as a holiday.
How did that come about?
I'm not too sure, but I just know that initially Christians and actually Puritans actually they challenged the legitimacy of Christmas itself.
So are you saying that the true Christians in this day and age, I'm sure there are some true Christians, don't believe that 25th is the...
I'm not sure. I just think it's just the Puritans.
Okay. Yeah, I would say truer Christians.
Truer. Okay.
Yeah, because you don't have true Christians anymore. If you did, they would follow Islam. Because Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam told them to follow the Prophet Ahmed. Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So but obviously you have those who are closer to the truth, and those who are further away from the truth. No.
So Siddiq, what is, sorry, I didn't ask you a question there. What is our standpoint on Christmas? It's just like a kind of a holistic view.
Yeah, so generally speaking, whenever you have a day, a celebration, an event, etc., that is purely cultural and has no religious connections, or even if, historically, far back in history, it may have had some religious connection, but right now that's not really understood. That's not prevalent in society. It's not in what you might call the public consciousness. Then we're more lenient, you see, because it ends up just being something cultural, and we may say, okay, look, as long as nothing haram is taking place, it's not necessarily prohibited. You may say best avoided. This is why I will differentiate between saying Merry Christmas and saying Happy New Year. You see, because Christmas is clearly linked to the religion of the Christians, Christianity. And it's linked to, although it might not be accurate, but it's linked to the birth of Isa alayhi salam. And the reason I raise this is because some people will say, well, nowadays there shouldn't be an issue with Muslims celebrating Christmas or saying Merry Christmas or even exchanging gifts and such things, because nowadays it's so commercialized, it's got nothing to do with religion any longer. I would say, or my response to that would be, we're not there yet. And give it another few decades, maybe, I don't know. But right now, it's not the case that if you were to ask, most people in society, what is Christmas all about? Is Christmas related to a religion? What is the purpose of Christmas? What are the roots of Christmas? That most people will respond to you and say, I don't know, it's just a cultural thing. No, a lot of people in society will tell you that, no, this is from Christianity. It relates to, some might go further and tell you it relates to the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him. But the point is, it's still there as a religious holiday of the Christians, even though there are cultural connotations to it as well, and certainly commercial as well, but it's not completely disconnected. As opposed to, say, New Year's, okay? Now, if you've done a lot of digging and research, you might find that, well, there's some pagan links to the New Year's holiday, etc.
Even with Christmas, there's
it's intertwined with paganism, no doubt.
Solstice, yeah.
No, but you see what I mean? You might do a lot of research, and then you might find, well, actually, it's got some links, but that's not in the public consciousness. That's not widespread. It's not generally known. This is why I often give the example of Halloween. I say Muslims researching it and looking into it has probably made it prohibited now.
Yeah.
Okay? Because once upon a time, Halloween was just Halloween. It was just, it was just people dress up and, ask for money, essentially. And, they have their traditions. But then, in my experience, it seems that primarily Muslims dug into it, looked into it, delved into it, and they found, well, actually, this is very pagan. And then they made that public knowledge and spread it and propagated it. So now a lot of Muslims are aware that Halloween relates to paganism. Yeah. So therefore, it's more likely to be prohibited now.
But what does your intention ever have an influence? Because a lot of people will do it for the sake of, they don't do it. They understand that it stems from Christianity, but they do it because of the commercial aspect. They know that it's a time of year where kids are off from school, people are off from work, and even as small as just making like a meal, not necessarily Christmas as a meal, but having like a roast. But they know that like they're not doing it because Christianity. They're doing it because that's just the current vibe of the country.
I would describe it as convenience. Okay, a lot of Muslim families get together on the 25th of December because everybody's off.
We're getting together on the 25th.
Yeah, because everybody's off. It's not because we're celebrating Christmas. It's because it's convenient. Even the taxi drivers are off. You see, so it's a matter of convenience. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not going to say it's haram for you to get together. No. It's just convenience. That's fine, but I would warn them against imitating the traditions of Christmas. Then now I'll say it's not pure convenience any longer. Now you have some kind of imitation going on. So I would say, some Muslims roast a turkey. So why? So turkey's halal. Why can't I do it? I say, but why on this particular day? Why not? So I would say to them, look, when you get together as Muslims, because it's convenient to get together as a family on the 25th, everybody's off work, have the type of meals you'd normally have. Don't change anything. No.
Where someone wanted to just switch it up for the time, might just be feeling a little turkey on Christmas Day.
Turkey's a bit dry. Turkey's a bit dry.
Let's just switch for chicken then.
Also, I feel when you do something like that, if you were to put it on social media,
it's a bit confusion.
Because people will start to think, you're celebrating it, or you are, even though your intention might not be.
That's true.
They don't know that.
And it's not the kind of thing you want to leave behind as well. If something happens and stuff like that, you don't want to be,
Yeah, but again, we need to get this right. There's nothing wrong with people gathering, Muslims gathering on that day, because it clearly is easier for people to gather, and we encourage families to gather in Islam. To silatul rahim, keeping links with your family is very, very important.
100%.
Can we highlight the issue of people saying it's not that deep? Like they say that, if they know their intentions, like, is it really that big of a deal that we're making a turkey? Am I really going to get punished from Allah by making a turkey?
Subhanallah. First and foremost, I will say to people, you don't speak in that tone with regards to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when people adopt that kind of attitude and tone, You can say that about anything,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
You can
Like
end up saying,
anything.
well, will I really get punished because I was sleepy in the morning and I decided to sleep rather than get up and pray? Well, will I really get punished if I chose not to starve myself and I was enjoying a nice meal in the month of Ramadan? Will I really? You see what I mean? It just, where does it end?
Yeah.
We don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah.
As Muslims, we speak from the perspective of evidence.
Yeah.
Our deen is about evidence, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay? And if there's evidence for something, we'll say, yes, it is the case. Yeah, but it's such a minor thing. Well, it's minor with you. You're not the judge.
Yeah.
Okay, it's minor with him. He's not the judge.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what's important and what's not. And what is rewarding and what is punishable. And what is praiseworthy and what is blameworthy.
Yeah.
That tone people adopt when they're discussing these kind of things, it's very, very dangerous. And it contradicts the sanctity of religion.
Yeah.
And this is why, especially people who are against religion, they are so insistent that you should be able to mock religion. In these societies, especially in the West, there's an insistence you have to be able to mock religion. Why? They know. I'm not saying every single one of them, but many of them are aware that one of the things that gives religion its power, its appeal, is the sanctity.
Yeah.
That we look at it as something sacred. We have great respect for it. When you lose that, you lose a great deal.
Yeah.
So people, even if even somebody wants to make an argument, we say no problem, make your argument. If you disagree that there's nothing wrong with celebrating Christmas, let's have that discussion. Let's quote Quran, let's quote Hadith, let's implement the laws of Islam, and let's have that discussion. But and some people will. Some people will say, well, no, as far as I'm concerned, look at this legal ruling, look at this legal ruling. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with it. They'll analyze it. But this approach is incredibly dangerous.
This reminds me of a quote from Imam Ghazali, where he says that the corruption of religion stems from turning into mere words and appearances. Because I think that people underestimate that. If there's a clear prohibition, we have no right to challenge this. If there's a divine prohibition, it's not about what we think. If there's a clear prohibition, we can't.
You can't go against it. But the point again, we're happy with people discussing the evidence. Okay, respectfully. Okay, but when they might not have that intention, but that kind of tone will belittle it. You see, will God really punish me for this? As I said, you can apply that to anything. Will God really punish me for bowing to this idol? It's meaningless anyway. Why would God? You can just apply that to absolutely anything. So we should warn people strongly about that. And you're absolutely right. People do that kind of thing. They will speak in that manner. Will say, no, this is your deen. Protect your deen. Right? Even if you disagree, because sometimes people will say, well, this sheikh said it's allowed. I say, let's have a discussion, but in a respectful manner.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to say something. So, say we're Muslims that do not believe in Christmas, etc. However, we're living in the UK, right? So we are, the key word is participation, right? Whether we're at work, where we have to work, whether I don't think you're forced to.
Schools, unis,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
parties,
you have to get involved in Christmas parties, you have to get involved in Secret Santas, or whether you send your kids to school where they're pretty much getting,
This is the contradiction of the society, isn't it? It's also supposed to be a liberal society.
Yeah, but it's not.
But
it's not. We know what the reality is. When it comes to Easter, they're doing Easter eggs and stuff like that. When it comes to Christmas, they're doing.
It's a liberal society when it suits them.
Yeah, pretty
When
much.
it doesn't, then it's no longer a liberal society.
But see, my point is, what advice would you give to either the Muslim worker or the Muslim child or the Muslim parent?
Yeah.
How do they stop this kind of involvement? Because nowadays, alhamdulillah, I think there is room for because me personally, I told my colleagues that I'm not going to get involved in Christmas parties, and they done a Secret Santa. I go, I'm not going to get involved in Secret Santa. Instead, they changed it to just giving gifts. They actually changed the name just for me. So you can do that, right? But I know in a lot of instances, either Muslims won't speak up or that's not the case.
This is the point. You see, alhamdulillah, this is something our deen really encourages. Be respectful, but be strong and be principled.
Yeah.
and so many people just want to assimilate. Oh, I don't want to. I feel bad. I may upset people. Be strong and principled. When you're strong and principled, even when people disagree with you, even when they dislike you, they will respect you.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is really, really
It's
important.
true.
And when we're speaking about dawah and propagating Islam,
Yeah.
you have to establish that. You have to be a principled person.
Yeah.
And even now, you will find certain non-Muslims, and especially those who now have an interest in Islam or have become Muslim, that impresses them.
Yeah.
Even though if at the time they disliked it, they was, I was just making things awkward,
Yeah.
making things difficult for
Yeah,
everybody
yeah, yeah.
else.
They could even
Okay.
say like they're like attention seeking or something.
Yeah, might call you all kinds of names, but
Yeah.
as long as you're respectful and humble,
Yeah.
the Muslim
Yeah.
should always adopt the akhlaq of the Prophet
Yes,
sallallahu alaihi
sallallahu
wasallam. Try
alaihi
his best to do so. You're humble, you're respectful, you try to explain yourself to the best of your ability, and you stick to your principles. Don't be arrogant.
Mm.
And nobody should be arrogant ever. No Muslim should be arrogant ever. But certainly in these kind of situations, there's no need for arrogance. There's no need to mock anything either. Okay, be
Could you
respectful.
give an example of how something might sound arrogant and then compare it to, okay, this is a better way to put it?
Sometimes, people, will say, even though the words might be correct. Okay, but it comes across in an arrogant manner. You might say, you're all misguided, you're all going to hellfire anyway, And even if it's, even if they're joking, I'm on the haqq, I'm right, and you're all right. You see, that kind of thing. Even though, to be honest, what the person is saying, not you're going to hellfire, because you can't specify individuals to hellfire, but what the person is saying is actually right. We are on the haqq and they are on falsehood. Okay, but again, adopt the akhlaq of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't constantly shouting at people. Was very respectful, had the most beautiful character, but yes, also spoke the truth.
Yeah.
With great conviction, and that's the point. You see, so you have your convictions. We have our beliefs. We have our principles. Stick to them. Okay, but do it in the most respectful manner. So don't wait. And again, communication and timing is important.
Yep.
Okay, don't wait as you done. They want to do Secret Santa. You spoke.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't. You didn't wait till the moment
When
that everybody's exchanging gifts.
after I received my gift.
Yeah, you received the gift.
Oh yeah, I'll accept the gift because it's rude, but I cannot gift you back.
Yeah, so pocket it, and then again. Yeah, sometimes fine, it might come to that, but whenever you have these options, you take it. I don't know who I was discussing this with, but a question came to me recently regarding prayer during exams.
Yeah.
And I said, look, speak to them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Don't wait until you're sat in the exam room and then put your hand up, I need to go pray.
Yeah.
Organize.
Yeah.
Communicate. And it'll be much, much easier for you. So that's the point. Muslims should be strong. As in the Sahih Hadith, the strong Muslim is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be strong, but being strong means following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not being arrogant.
Yeah.
Our example is always the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So Siddhi, you're saying be strong as an advice. So for the normal Muslim worker, for like Christmas as well, prepare in advance. If you know this is happening, etc., you speak, etc. How about for the parents, for their children?
That's a lot easier because when you're an employee, you're in a more difficult situation. You might lose your job, or the dynamic is different. Whereas when you're the parent, you have.
But say if the child,
you have some authority there.
If the whole school class is doing it, the child might feel left out, that they're not partaking in, say, like creating a Christmas jumper or something. I don't know, right? But when it comes to Eid, the school doesn't do that because it's just
Also, if I can quickly follow up on that, the point of kids at school is that obviously they're not at the age of accountability. So if they do get involved, do they get sin for it?
No sin on the children themselves. But if they're being misguided and the parents know about it, if they're in the Nativity play, for example, and the parents know about it, then the parents do need to do something about it.
What if they say to the child, look, we don't believe in this? Right, like they prep the child before and like you're in this play because we want you to be like included, but we don't believe in this. And when it comes to Eid, they do make a fuss about Eid and stuff.
I'm not going to speak to the child. I'm going to speak to the parents. I say, why do you want him included in it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's
what if your kid really wants to be in it because everyone else is in there?
Yeah.
But that's like when they really want something and you know it's not good
Yeah.
for them. Do you get it?
Yeah,
You wouldn't
yeah,
give it
fair
to
enough.
It's
Like,
the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
you see.
So they're not allowed to be in nativity plays.
Not the nativity play. They have a baby Jesus, doll and things like that. They
Mm.
have somebody playing Maryam alayhi salam. We don't accept that. This is the point. As far as we're concerned, Christians may disagree, but we are adamant. We have more love for Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam than the Christians. We have more love and respect for Sayyidina Maryam than the Christians. We will not allow a person to play Maryam. As far as we're concerned, she's too noble. She's too elevated. She's too perfect. No person can play Sayyidina Maryam. And no doll can represent Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Or no baby can represent. No, it's not allowed. These are elevated, illuminated people. Nobody can play their role.
Even if they're part of the crowd, i.e., like they're not the main characters, but they're just part of the crowd, i.e., like
You mean the
A
audience?
tree.
a tree or an angel.
No,
or
we just
something like
look, we don't want to be part of that.
An angel.
You see, we don't want to be part of that when they're doing things that because this is where we have to understand. We love our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than any other person, and more than even other prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the basic principles are the same.
Yeah.
We are outraged when they depict the Messenger of Allah, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we don't accept it with regards to any prophet.
Yeah.
It's not like, you cannot depict our prophet, but you can depict Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and Sayyidina Ibrahim. We have the same issue across the board. No, we don't want to be involved in that. And again, this is where, unfortunately, social norms, for many people, overtake religious rulings. Because religiously speaking, that's very, very problematic for somebody to depict a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or even Sayyidah Maryam. She's not a prophet, but she's a very highly regarded person in Islam. That's not permitted. But people say, yes, normal. You see, because it's normal, they don't have an issue with it. The same child, as yourself you mentioned, the same child, if this child does something else, which might not even be haram per se, the parents are quite strict. Okay, you're eating too much sugar. No more sugar for you. But I want the sugar. No more sugar. We're going to put our foot down because it's best for the child.
If they get a C grade instead of a
Yeah, the grade, despite their best efforts.
Why an A? I want an A
But
star.
you see, this is a point. Social norms are given priority over the religious rulings. Religiously, it's far more of a concern. Obviously, we don't want children to eat unhealthily, but it's far more a concern that they're doing something that, as far as we're concerned, is blasphemy.
So going back to the example of the workplace, or just in general, if someone has given you a gift, like you don't celebrate, someone's given you a gift, like I don't know, suddenly, and obviously it's rude not to give one back. Should you give one back?
Yeah, you give one back at Eid time, inshallah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I've got a quick question back to the school thing that you were on about. What if every school has a Christmas dinner, right? Not dinner, lunch. They have that.
Yeah, they have
And usually schools wouldn't make an alternative for them. What would you
Again, this is why we're touching upon this earlier, schools and what goes on there, and what if it's the only Muslim child in the school and such things. This is why, first and foremost, even though a lot of people in this community might not like it, but it's important for Muslims to understand there is strength in numbers. If you are the only Muslim parent in that entire school, or the only Muslim child in the entire school, you're not going to get much of a say. You're not going to have much of a voice. Whereas when you live in a community where there are lots and lots of Muslims, and you organize yourselves and you voice your concerns, you're more likely to be listened to. So this is very, very important. We need to organize better. We need to unite more often. And yes, even though I'm not going to say we should never interact with non-Muslims, of course we interact with non-Muslims, but we interact in a manner which is according to the guidance of Islam. But yes, Muslims should live in communities together, even when the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum went as a minority to live in Abyssinia. Initially there was a relatively small number of them that went, and they returned back. Those are
Yeah.
familiar with the seerah. And then afterwards, what happened? The Prophet ﷺ then sent them again with a
Yeah.
much larger group. So even though they were a minority, there was strength in the numbers that they had. So this is important, you know. Of course, Muslims should be strong, but should also recognize that there is strength in numbers as well. And there's strength in organizing.
Yeah.
And there's strength in being strategic about things as
Yeah.
well, having a strategy.
Having said that strategic thing, but it's actually quite important. I'll tell you something and my experience that like why these kind of things that kids love Christmas, Easter and stuff is because the schools are commercializing it and they're making it fun. So the
And
things
they get
that,
very excited about
that
it.
this is what I mean, kids are kids. So I would advise parents, and I've taken this from my experience around it, is that if you make Eid
You're a parent?
no. I said experiences around. I've got a lot of parents around me. So if you make Eid, for example, excitable, Ramadan excitable, it makes such a big difference because Eid comes across, Ramadan comes once and Eid comes twice. So there you go. You've already got that covered. So you be like, look, let them have their Christmas. It's fine, but our Eid will be better. We'll have balloons. We'll have Eid Mubarak, Ramadan Mubarak.
Imitation of.
No,
I'm not sure. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like,
I
banners
don't
and
see
like
it.
even
Yeah.
like lights.
You know-
and stuff, 'cause I'm-
This is important. It's a very, very good question and important to address. There are certain things that are universal. And even if one community, you know, implements those practices, it's not going to become unique to them.
Yeah.
Okay, like lights.
Yeah.
Lights are universal across the world, across communities and societies. When they're celebrating,
Yeah.
they light things up.
It's if you have an Eid
No.
tree, then you've got a problem.
Yeah.
Let's be that's
Wait,
something
so
that's
are you allowed to have like presents during Eid time then? Like, you know, like
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
because that's
Eid,
universal,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
These are
Let's
things
do
that
that to kind of give.
Yeah.
Sunnah to
Yeah.
gift as well. But this is a really, really important principle. We have to understand, because sometimes people will say, no, they do that. Look, certain things are universal and certain things are more unique.
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, lights, cards as well. Cards have now become universal. They're not just Christmas and birthday. There are cards for all kinds of things, occasions, and in societies throughout the world. Okay, gifts is and meals. Okay, cooking meals and such things. So we won't say, Christians cook on Christmas, so should we really do it on Eid? No, these are universal things.
Yeah.
But then certain things are very specific.
Yeah.
You see, the Christmas tree, for example. We're not going to say let's have a Christmas tree on Eid. However, look, I'm not advising this, and I personally wouldn't do it. But if somebody says we will have an Eid tree. Okay, which is a different color, different type, and it's very, very
It's
different.
not a tree.
And I'm going to do that. I'd say, look, this person has made a reasonable attempt to differentiate, but I'm still not comfortable. I'm not going to say it's imitating them, but I'm still not comfortable. Why can't we have our own ideas?
Because the inspiration is still coming.
There's
from
a lot of-
There's a concern, you see.
Eid Cookie City.
Yeah, again, cookies. Cookies are quite. Yeah.
They have Christmas cookies, don't they?
and carrots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
For the
So,
Raiders.
no, but I think the point is that we, alhamdulillah, can be creative ourselves.
That's the
Think-
point.
think of-
We don't. This
We don't need to-
mentality is
yeah.
wrong. That they've got Christmas tree. Let's do Eid.
It's something-
Let's do
yeah.
Eid. Let's do something
Something
else.
even
I think
better.
we need to make more effort to make Eid more.
No, this is my.
Yeah,
That was my
yeah.
point. That was my point.
Like,
Because
create like a
children,
culture in the
children
house
do
where-
not know the
You know
difference
what?
between
I think we
Christmas
should
and
leave that for the Eid podcast.
This is we're gearing up for Eid. Less less than 100 days left in Ramadan, Siddhi, and I've seen that. Mashallah, I was like, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah. We're getting to the
So,
last.
can I ask a question in terms of greetings, Siddhi? So,
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
for example, can you say to your colleagues, "Oh, I hope you have a good time with your family"? Like,
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
good time
that's
with-
absolutely
But you
fine.
can't say
'Cause
Merry
there's-
Christmas. I hope you
No,
have a
don't
good
say
Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Yeah,
or those
that's
kind of
the-
things.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Yeah,
holidays, enjoy the break.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy your time with your family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is just.
Oh, sorry.
One of the last questions we have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Muslim families because they've had their granddads, their parents, they all grew up around celebrating Christmases together, and they know it's bad, but because their parents have done it and the parents of the parents have done it, and so on, they think it's a normal thing to do, even though they know it's against the religion. They're still doing it. What's the advice you would give
Even
them?
today, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really understand the extent of how much we should not do it.
Yeah.
So like, it's not
Because
to them.
now, as Siddhi was saying, a lot of people think that's society, like, okay, it's
It's
part
a
of
norm.
culture.
It's
Yeah.
society
So
norm.
therefore,
It's
they're not
commercial.
understanding the religion.
But then I feel like it's because they're following their forefathers' footsteps, right?
Yeah.
Because if their forefathers have done it, they're like, oh, so they done it, so why can't we do it? And we
Yeah.
know it's wrong, but they
Yeah,
done
what
it. so-
advice would you give on that, Siddhi?
I mean, there's quite a few things there, but first of all, on the forefathers thing, I'll say that's precisely the mentality of Quraysh
Yeah.
and the Arabs.
Yeah.
And the Prophet
Yeah.
sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent to them and said to them, leave the idols. They say about our forefathers.
Yeah.
It's not the way Muslims think. It's not the way they practice their religion. So that's the first thing I would say. I say forefathers are not a proof.
Yeah.
Okay, proof is Quran and Hadith, and let's look to that, inshallah ta'ala. But on the other hand, I do appreciate if the whole family's always done it in that manner and they're insistent on doing it. It is more difficult to take a stance, but once again, that's what the Muslim should do. And no doubt, when you're speaking to elders in your family, you have to be extremely respectful,
Yeah.
but you still have to speak the truth.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Look at the Sahaba, the young Sahaba who became Muslim.
Yeah.
And sometimes they were disowned by their families. Sometimes they were even imprisoned or tortured by their families for it. And they just persisted, respected. They didn't disrespect their parents.
Okay.
They respected them, but they just persisted. They just kept, gently encouraging them and trying to explain to them. But once again, it comes to that very same point that our Prophet ﷺ taught us to be strong. The Muslim should be strong. Shouldn't just follow everybody else. That's not the purpose of, or that's not at the core of being a Muslim, that you just follow society wherever it goes. No, you're the one, or as a body Muslims, but also on an individual level, you're the one who's going to try to steer your culture, be it broad culture or the culture within your family, to that what's right, inshallah ta'ala. Don't just follow everybody else all of the time. Understand what's right. And at the same time, yes, having said what I've said just now, I have in my mind certain people might be mistaken regarding certain aspects of the deen and consider certain things to be prohibited when they're actually not. So you should also be open to the fact that you might actually be mistaken regarding certain things. Because some people might be, no, as a family we cannot gather on the 25th of December because it's Christmas Day and that's why we're gathering. No, we've spoken about that. So you have to be open to the fact that you might be wrong regarding certain things. But if you know you are right regarding something and the response you're getting is not religious, it's just family pressure, it's social issues, etc., then you hold your ground, inshallah ta'ala, and recognize that the greatest reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is when things are difficult. When everything is smooth and easy, inshallah, there's still reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that's not where the greatest reward is. So as much as we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ease, we should also recognize when things are challenging, when they are difficult, that's a huge opportunity. No.
Alhamdulillah. So I think it's a good point to end. I think, inshallah, I think it's been a good discussion.
Also make a quick disclaimer that we're not trying to invalidate anyone's beliefs, or if you're a Christian watches to celebrate Christmas. Also not trying to judge any Muslim who may or may not celebrate. Sheikh is just simply relaying what the Quran.
This is just like normal advice. We're not trying to go into anyone. It's just something that you guys can reflect on. So don't think we're trying to pressure you into anything.
I think
It's
our
just
billion
advice to take
viewers know about us right now. So alhamdulillah, I think we're fine.
of you that can watch this.
Oh yeah, I was expecting to get more views than party there.
Inshallah.
So, before you end, could you just give a summary? So people can attend work parties if it's not Christmas, if it's not called Christmas.
Yeah, so first of all, if it's detached from Christmas and they've gone out of their way to detach it.
Day, but they haven't called it Christmas. They're like, this is just a
the point is, usually when they do that kind of thing, they're making an effort to detach it. You see, so when they're making an effort, we want to support them. But again, just because they've removed one issue, it doesn't mean that everything else becomes halal. Let's say they have alcohol there. Let's say they've got music there. They're dancing around. There's free. So we have to look at other factors as well. But the point is, when it's connected to religion, it's a non-starter. Whereas with other things, it might not be completely prohibited. So, for example, as I said, New Year's is not directly linked, or in the public consciousness, it's not linked to a religion. So if there was a New Year's get together, so okay, it's not prohibited in and of itself. What are you going to do in this get together? Well, we're going to drink and we're going to get drunk and we're going to have music and dance, and so I say goodbye. You see, I'm not interested in that. And this again, where it goes back to what I was saying earlier, Muslims need to be strong. Yeah, but they've already changed it. You know, they call it Christmas and now it's no longer Christmas. So, you know, maybe I should go. Well, let's see what's going on there. This is why my advice, practical advice for people is, it's just best to excuse yourself. Because there is, you know, there's so much potential problem. So many potential problems there. It's difficult to avoid them all. The best thing is just to try to excuse yourself. Now, if you can, and again, we're supposed to be living in a liberal society, and they should allow you to excuse yourself from things that are not part of your work, part of your job.
One thing I did quickly want to say is, with the New Year's thing, I think Muslims should really get to know more about the Muslim New Year. You know, because that's a different calendar, and the months in Islam, it will be kind of a good thing to know. And I think even on your phone you can put the normal calendar, and also you can have an Islamic calendar which says the date and stuff. But obviously when you're booking meetings, don't put in on the 12th of Rajab, and then your colleague will have no idea. But anyways, I think Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, and everyone else, Alhamdulillah, for your participation.
Also, as always,
Follow.
like, subscribe and share.
Inshallah.
And Tad's going to do the honours now.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Please do try following our socials as much as you can. We'll put the links up. But thank you very much for everyone joining us, and make dua for us, make dua for the ummah, inshallah, to keep us on the straight path and follow the Quran and Hadith as much as we can. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.